things and nerdy brain things too. There's also people else that are excited about that too, and they're a little sad. But we're sad for them, but we are going to upload the video of all of this amazingness onto the Mega in the app thing. So we'll get that in case that, for our friends out in the hall that we love, and for anyone here. And also so I can show my mom and prove to her. So my name is Stephanie Brenham, and I am a special ed teacher. And I taught little bitty people and self-contained and in resource, and now I am in middle school. So I figured it took me 15 to get out of elementary. I'm in 5 in middle school, so I should be in high school in the next 15, 20 years. My husband is also my IT department, and so I always travel with the IT department. And he is also a high school career tech teacher, and so and is always down for some shenanigans that we're gonna jump into together. All right, now I have a co-presenter. So let me back myself up, because I promised I did take my medicine to help keep me focused. I'm a little amped up, so if you're like, Stephanie, we're getting off the rails, I promise there is a destination. We just may take some sidetracks to get there, but it'll be great. We'll chase all the rabbits, it'll be fun. So, as I mentioned, I am Stephanie Brenham. I'm National Board Certified, and that's going to kind of come into play in a little bit, because I'm going to take you on this journey of kind of how I got some information and some understanding, and how that completely revolutionized how I teach and how I am, support in the regular classrooms, doing inclusion and that sort of thing. So I want to kind of figure out who we've got. So we have preschool, elementary teachers. Where are you people? Come on, all the Jack Hartmans and all. Come on, like Jack Hartmans. You guys cannot be sleepy on me. Like, I've got so much pent-up energy. Like, if you save your cookie for lunch, go ahead and eat it, because we're going to need to do this together. All right. So, middle school. Where are you? Oh, yes. We're crazy people. We're crazy because we love middle schoolers. And high school people?
Yeah.
Yeah, high school people. They're like, y'all keep your middle schoolers. Admin, downtown people, principal type people, people who put where the money goes. Where are those people? All right, good. That kind of know your audience, know your students, helps me learn. All right, so like I said, I've never done a presentation here before, so this is also exciting for me and a new endeavor. My friend who is found apparently a lot of enjoyment at lunchtime, who has not made it in the room yet. Maybe she doesn't let him in. His name is John Marklin. I'm sure he'll make his way around here. He is kind of an educational technology person, and he's working right now with the city of Birmingham. Anybody Birmingham City?
Yeah.
Hey, come on, friends. Anybody middle school Birmingham City? Yeah. All right. So I was introducing you.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Got full belly down.
I'm good. I got caught in the rain. Sorry.
So our Birmingham City people have a connection. They're working with a program that John is kind of facilitating and all of that, and getting some more research as far as math and middle school, and it's so exciting.
Motivation and perseverance is what we're working on with. It's a Gates grant, so it's very exciting to be working on it.
All right, so I'm gonna try my clicker. I'm getting creepy. All right, so here's where we're starting. I'm going to take you on this journey with me. So I told you I'm nationally board certified. So every 5 to 10 years, depending on when you certify, you got to maintain your certification. Anybody national board?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're not, it's a little bit of money, so good. And it's a good process and all that. That's true too. But so I needed to figure out, okay, what am I going to focus on for my maintenance I currently teach English and special ed, so I support in those classrooms mainly. But as you know, you gotta read and all the things. And those kids that they figure out like that you're their person, and then they're gonna bring you science, and they're gonna bring you all the things, and so you learn all the things. So, here I am trying to figure out what am I gonna do for national boards, then the state report cards come out. And our area has a couple of comparable middle schools around, and they all scored higher than us in math. So, your principal's a little bit more of a coach kind of mindset, then we're like it's one thing for, really affluent schools, and it's one thing for, for them to be higher. You got your, your JCIB internet, like your super, that's one thing, but these guys are right in our neighborhood, and they're scoring higher than us. What's up? We gotta do something. So as a district, we decided everybody's teaching math. PE coaches are teaching math. Office personnel are teaching math. It was a little dicey to begin with. But it also I kind of took that and I'm like, oh, something new. Let's see what we can do with this. And I'm going to have to teach math. So we separated everybody by where they scored on the previous year's ACAP. So in my building, I ended up with the current 7th graders who scored in the lowest ranges their 6th grade year. So this is audience participation time. What type of kids are going to be in my group? They're failing. They're what?
I said highly motivated.
Oh, the most motivated. They're scoring. There's no. They're having language barriers. They're in special education. They have they've been
Social or
home issues for sure. Some transients. They're coming in and out. They have been at 6 schools, and you may not even know my school, but those kids are there.
Yeah.
That's because those kids fall in that range. They're also they're very bright, but for some reason that doesn't show there. So I'm thinking, I gotta teach. I know they didn't get 6th grade standards, so I gotta go back and do something with that, and do something that they're doing in 7th grade, knowing my population's already grade levels behind. I don't have time to lose. So now I've always been a little bit of a brain nerd because I'm like, everybody's got a brain. Around election time, that feels like that might not be accurate. Not starting anything, just but everybody has a brain, and so if those function similarly, what can we do as teachers to utilize what's already happening and make that process faster for us? And so that kind of led to, okay, now I've got to figure out a math intervention. Remember, I've done little people, reading and math, but I haven't done middle school math. And I learned that I hate doing ratios. 6th grade teachers, y'all. It's fine though. We get through there. So here I am, got to figure out math intervention for a subject, for a level that I've never taught before, and I'm like, what am I going to do? So take to the internet, because that's where the answers live. And so I'm actually kind of split, thinking about national board stuff, thinking more English-wise, and I come across edweb.net. Now they have a bunch of webinars that are available for free. So if you scan this QR code, it's going to bring you to this particular webinar, which is what captured my attention. Now, they'll ask for your email address. They may send you an email. It's not a big deal. But if you need some PDs and some credits and stuff, good way to do that. All right, so I'm at my house. I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do. I watch this PD, and it's like science and math. Because, hey, we've been talking about science and reading a lot of science and math. I like those words. And then firing up the hippocampus. See my little emoji, like I'm all like brain research, getting up in there, right? All right, so this was done, Nigel Nesbitt and Kai and Caruth. Is that what you say?
Yeah.
Look at there. And they're at the Mind Research Institute. So research that happens, then the nonprofit, and then there's like an educational branch that's got like programs, and then there's like a medical thing that's got some other stuff, which I do like, because it's all brainy stuff. My son has epilepsy, so I like all that kind of, medical-y things too. Just, he's good, no secret now, but just, it's fun to know that. So, they do this presentation, which I'm gonna kind of do a condensed version of what they did today to kind of take you on this journey into what I've learned and what I've seen in my class. So, we start out with this picture as a French cartoonist from like 1910, and he's like, this is the future of education in 2000. Okay, so what is that about? You can, what do y'all see? What do you notice?
I'm thinking I wish I could do it that way.
How much easier it would be if I just sit here and just throw books in it, right? What else do you notice? What's different about your classes than these guys?
Everybody's getting the same information.
Oh, they're getting the same information.
That one kid isn't that his work.
Poor guy. He didn't even get the weird headset. He's gonna do all the work and he didn't get anything.
Oh.
What about what the kids are doing? They're sitting. It's so passive. It's like education is something that happens to you, not something that you're doing. That is definitely the way a lot of our interventions have functioned, and a lot that I have seen and implemented myself. It's something that the thing does, the kid sees or listens to, but they're not the ones taking that active role, which may be the reason why I wasn't seeing a whole lot of success with those things. Now, have you have parents that are like, we don't understand the new math? And how many of you, when they say that, you try your very best not to roll your eyes? Yes, you know what I'm saying, what I'm about to say. Have anybody seen that movie Hidden Figures? All the ladies, and they were calculators, these human calculators, to get, that worked at NASA, getting this to the moon. The person was the calculator, because there weren't calculators and computers to do the stuff. So education is sort of forming at this point, and right in those years, what are we doing? Curriculum companies are kind of doing stuff, and they're like, well, we need human calculators. We need to replicate these ladies to do all the things. And I'm of the mindset that it hasn't changed a whole lot, but our world has. So the pushback from these parents that are, I don't know the new math, it's because you learned the algorithm. You don't know why you learned the algorithm. Now, you can add the things at the grocery store, and you can divide the macaroni and cheese among the kids, but the math that we are teaching, I realized when I was going through, and I didn't truly understand it. But I could sort of kind of surface level, but the deep conceptual understanding where I know what's happening wasn't there. And the reason I think it's important for us to sort of shift in the way that we're talking about math and teaching math is that we are not creating calculators. We're not creating human computers. We need to work on having the people do the things that the AI can't. The AI can't create and solve problems it doesn't know exist. So that's really the reasoning for the major shift. So you're like, okay, Stephanie, that's a whole lot of words. We haven't talked about brain science. Well, here we go. All right, this QR code will take you to a blog that is all about how the brain learns. And basically, it learns in this way. You have something that's in front of you, and then there you make a prediction. What is it I'm supposed to do? All right, did anybody play Super Mario Brothers ever in your life? And the answer to that should be yes. And if that isn't, you have homework tonight. So you have Mario, he is on the left side of the screen, there's a hole, and then there's a block over there. So your prediction, I probably need to jump. I'm gonna need to move, I'm gonna jump. I jump from here, I gotta make it there. What? So I took my action of jumping, but my outcome, my little, wasn't the block over here I was trying to get. So what do I do? What'd you do when you were playing? You do it again. Like, oh, that didn't work. What do I try to figure it out? Maybe I need to get a little closer to the end of the little thing. And then I can make the big jump and then I get grown really big or whatever. This is the way the brain works, and every mammal brain does this. So it's sort of like we say, these kids, they're in special ed. They've been in special ed since they were in kindergarten. They don't even know how to add. Doesn't matter. Their brain's gonna work this way. You've got rats that are in the mazes. Their brains work this way. That didn't give me the cheese. I'm gonna try something else until I get the cheese. So, and the best part about this is why video games are so addicting, is because as soon as you figure it out and you get there, you're like, yeah, I want to do another one. And then it's been 5 hours and you haven't eaten, and everything's going crazy. So, I can tell you all of that. I can show you all of that. This is where it really made a difference for me. This QR code will take you to this game. This game is, I think it's in the K2 group.
K3. Yeah.
K3. And it's called Upright GG. GG is a cute little penguin. And the goal of this game, this is through ST Math, is if GG is on one side, you get him to the other side, or if he's on the bottom, you gotta go all the way up. So here we have 2 steps to get it the right way. It's more fun if you make the things yourself doing the QR. But I went ahead and recorded an example. So I'm taking the steps. Oh, got it? Uh-oh. So the first 2 worked. I saw that and I'm like, oh, I gotta change this last one. And I'm hesitating because this is minute 8 when I'm trying to record these in a row because I'm terrible at this spatial reasoning, but I got it. So when I showed my students this the first time they were looking at it, I showed them that and I told them, I actually played it with them, and some of them got it immediately. Like some of you are like, oh, you just do those. Like, look. But for some people, even functional adults, that's hard. But I don't leave that activity feeling like a failure, because it separates my feeling of myself from the action that I just took. And it's like, I got it wrong. I'm like, hey, I got 2 out of those 3 right. And that's gonna push me forward to want to do that. I'm like, I'm only 1 off. I'm gonna do this one and I'm gonna get to go on to the next thing. Kind of a motivation to sort of get there. And that feedback component is so important to be timely right there. So in order to give feedback, it has to be in a place where the kids can take it and do something with it. One of the things I noticed is that my students were given a test on Friday and they wouldn't know until into the next week what they made on it, and that's only because they checked Power School to see their grade. That's too, like, okay, I got a 65, well, I don't know what I need to work on. I don't know what I need to change. And by that point, there's probably nothing I can do. So it's like, okay, we got bigger questions here about how we back up and make things a little bit smaller in smaller chunks. But if we are able to compare the result, what our prediction is actually housed in your hippocampus. What you think is going to happen is Mario going to pop to the other side. Then, when you do the action and you look at your outcome, it compares what's stored in your hippocampus to the thing that just happened. The longer the time the thing that happened, the test was, the last attempt, the longer it's been since that happened and you originally set that up, it's not going to be effective. So we have to be able to have that feedback that is corrective but not destructive. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like I was I hate math kind of kid until I realized doing it visually made sense to me, and now I'm not dumb. It was the steps that somebody else took me to. I just didn't get it. So we want to make sure that this piece is there, but not in a destructive way. So when we look at the two parts, we've got what we expected, what has actually happened. We notice the similarities and differences. Brains love patterns. That's why you see faces, in the lights in the backs of cars, and the way the headlights move, is because your brain wants to see a pattern. So when we show kids that, like, look at the pattern. What do you see that's the same? What's different? Also incorporates a lot more vocabulary, gets them talking, and which also has a whole social emotional, impact. It also builds the schema when you're right. So the next time I get to a similar situation, I'm going to do the same type of thing, and we'll be ready to do that more accurately. But if I get it wrong, the brain automatically is going to deprioritize that. I'm like, hey, that didn't work. I'm not going to try that again. So when you're accurate, that you have that strengthened schema, you have the dopamine increase, which heavens, we are fighting some kids to figure out ways to have dopamine, so we might as well try to jump in and embed it wherever we can, right? But then if you're not accurate, and there's a session later about productive struggle I'm planning on heading to, because there is such good reasoning for that when you're not accurate, it deprioritizes the schema that you tried, and that's not right. And then you have this moment. It's like you tried to figure something out, and you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna work, and then it doesn't, and you kind of don't have a backup plan. And then you're like, well, do you ever have that moment like, I'm gonna have to figure something else out? The cool part about that is that's called theta waves. Those theta waves are the thing that your brain is doing, be like, we don't know this. We're gonna have to get some information. Which for me means I call my mom. Anybody else? But it's an internal thing that prompts you to learn. So you hear nobody has bought anything, and it's just prioritizing. If we do this in this pattern, the kids themselves, their brains will work this way. So this one is a 4th grade game. It's called GG Cycles. And I say it's 4th grade in that's where it falls, adding fractions in the standards. But there is, we're talking about mine. I'm in K3 with my spatial GG, so we can't get that thing turned around correctly. So this game, you see GG is on top of the circles, and the platform is going to take her up. So you move the platform, but it doesn't give you directions. So how does a kid know what to do? I put this in front of you, and I'm like, here, how do you know what to do? What would you try? Just try something. Try something. Click on something. See what's clickable. Exactly. That's exactly what they're going to do. That's what they do when they get a new game. Some of them watch the tutorials, and some just click around. That's what it does. It's eliminated all of the language pieces. Now, they're like, what we just talked, especially that last session we just talked about how important math vocabulary is. It doesn't stop here. This is where it starts. Because, that's a fun sound. That you have students who are not proficient in English, who maybe are not there, they can speak English, but not academic language. That's an issue. Or they have language processing issues where, we're talking developmental disabilities, autism things. They get lost in the words. This takes that out for them. We'll get the words, we'll get them the vocab, but this lets them, I can participate where I'm at with my people in a way that doesn't make me feel bad. And now my special ed part here loves this program and the way it does it, because if I have a student, 7th grade, iReady says they're on 4th grade level. Most interventions are going to put them on a 4th grade level, and they're going to have to work their way up. Are they ever going to be on 7th grade level in the next 9 months that I got them? No. And that's even your most motivated kids. There's no way to do that. So that means that all this intervention has nothing to do with what they're doing in the classroom. How helpful is that? So this way, a kid, even who doesn't have the vocabulary, who's struggling with the skill, has the feedback to where they can be successful. This is another one where Gigi there's holes in the floor, you gotta get them all the way across. I had a friend of mine, her 8-year-old son, saw me, I was doing the presentation for my teacher friends, because you make me nervous, guys, and that's where we're at. And I'm like, 6th graders were fine, but like actual adults, and I'm all cleaning up. But he came over and he was like, I want to try it, and he's 8 years old. And this was where the part that he was at, and he did it. And he didn't have the directions. He has no idea about the orders of operations, but he knows that something is happening a certain amount of times, and that he can count those things. This is set up where it's in levels that make it a little bit more challenging as you go along. I had my 7th grade group doing the Gigi cycles one. The baseball player in the back of the room goes, guys, watch out when the cycle turns red. It means it goes backwards. So it's subtracting fractions too. And you see that, I'm getting ahead of myself. I thought this was going to happen. Is it okay? Okay, we're good. All right. So, anybody like research? Anybody nerdy like that? You like what the researchy stuff? Yeah. There's not very many of it. It's fine. It's fine. Some are like closet research. Like, I don't want people to know. It's all right. Safe space.
Late at night.
Safe space. It's fine. It's fine. All right. So here we have, this was some iReady assessment data that determined the levels that a group of students were on. So you have your green are on level, your orange are 1 grade level behind, then your purple's 2, and your blue are 3 grade levels behind. And then it has them looking at a couple of different games, puzzles in the ST Math program. And the number of attempts it took these students average to get correct. So these are your on level, not too much, not too many more extra tries for my light blue group here, right? The hardest game has about double, maybe a little more of attempts needed, but were they successful? Yeah. They got there. They just needed more help. And then, of course, they're in the same neighborhood on the easiest game. So this is what what I love here is that by providing the feedback in a way that is right there with them and the map that they can see, we are taking something that we thought, man, they're on fourth grade level. I'm never gonna get them to be doing linear equations. We're never gonna get there. But if we provide the resources here, we can make that happen. So here we got another study, and y'all like. So here is this stuff was test data from, they just pulled it. It was already done before SC Math even got involved. So they just pulled it. This was their the years, and a lot of it's California, and so the percent of proficiencies or who's met or extended those standards right through here. This year they have the grays the control group, and the orange is the ST Math the treatment group. So they used it this year. And then COVID happened, and of course California takes a little extra time to figure out what are we actually going to do. So then when they come back, 21, 22, what do you see? I'm showing math people a graph, and y'all aren't talking. Shame on y'all. All right, what do you see? Yeah. So you got your ST Math group in there. Everybody dropped, but I would much rather take less than a point over that down. That's 33 down there from the 41. So if that who has a true conceptual understanding, that orange group. That makes that QR code goes to the actual study, and it's lots of years and lots of data. I'm gonna jump into that. Get all pretty. All right. So I'm absorbing this. I went back and watched that webinar to kind of get into the brain stuff a billion times, and I'm I missed something, and I go back and I'm looking all over the web. What does this mean? What do I do here? So first of all, stmath.com. It has a lot of free stuff. So that's what I started with. And I was having to do proportions with my people, but they didn't know ratios. So we started with a ratio game, which I gave to my principal, and I just put it up on the board, and I was do it. And he kind of struggled around a little bit, and then he figured it out. That was how I kind of got him on board with hey, let's try this. So using the games, the free games in the intervention and pairing it to what I was doing was super helpful. There's also a lot in there that told me if I'm teaching this standard, then what games at different levels would help me. And so a lot of them I would put up as we're gonna do this for 5 minutes, and then we're gonna do the actual, whatever the actual stuff is. By doing this, I had a group of students, and you have that one little girl that's she kind of gets it, but you never know if she doesn't get it because she's not gonna say anything ever. And so she's in the very back of the room, and on the floor, she's all plugged in, in charge right now. And then I had this boy, loud, real quick to get angry, and he cannot figure out one of these puzzles that I've given him. And this is impossible, I can't do it. And then all of a sudden that girl has that moment where they're just and then they go, oh, and you're yeah, that's awesome. So then she kind of looks up, and he's pitching a fit, and he's I can't do this. This is impossible, and she, they're not in the same friend group. She pops up, and she walks over to him, and I haven't modeled any of this. I want to be I'm a super teacher. No, I haven't modeled any of this. She goes over to him, and is hey, which one are you on? And he was this puzzle here. And she's like, what have you tried? And he's like, well, I did this and that didn't work. And she's like, okay, well, what do you think you should do next? And he's like, I don't know, give up? And she's like, well, you could. Or you could try something different. So what else do you think might work? This child doesn't speak to me ever. And here she is like math whispering this kid. I'm like, what is happening? And he's like, well, I tried this, but maybe I need to move it over a little more. And she's like, well, give it a shot. And she does, and he's like, yeah. And they high five, y'all. And I'm a special ed teacher. I'm used to all my little ducks that sit around my table, and then I tell them all the things. And they were just doing it. And they were talking about it. And she didn't give him the answer. How many of y'all have those? Which one you want? It's 4. She led him through her thinking because she worked through it. And I sat back and I was like, all right, there's something to this. I wasn't sure what it was. There's something to this. Later on, I got a kid transferred in, been bounced around a lot, and he's been here 2 days, and he's working up through one of the lessons. Shoots his hand. And I said, yeah, buddy, what's up? And he was like, I'm done with this one. Can I go to the next one? Yes, you can. I kept the pluses and minuses. It's awesome. You want to do it. Like, that's fabulous. Minuses, maybe not during reading. Like, maybe not instead of your other work. But he was engaged because for the first time math was possible. And it wasn't something that other people did that he watched. He was getting it. He gained it. He was like, I can do this. Because it separated my value over my action. And I feel like as we're that's too ingrained. I'm the valedictorian. I make all A's. Except when I don't, because I never have. But it separates my worth as a person over my action in math. And if we can separate those two, then they're going to take more risks. They're going to try more things, and then they'll want to do the next one. And it automatically kind of compiles that way. So my admin, he's like, well, he had a group of kids too. We all had groups that we were teaching. So he had a group that's like, I'm going to try it with these guys. And they started the same way. They're very reluctant. I don't want to, what are we even doing? I have questions. You didn't give me the directions. But because they didn't have the directions, they started trying stuff. And then they started clicking them. And they're like, oh. And they're like, hey, how'd you get it to do that? And they're like, shh, don't tell them. No. But it started more and more conversations. And so everybody's like, oh, this is really neat. There's more of this version that's available. Now, I am a lowly special ed middle school teacher. I have 0 purchasing power. So I told my admin, hey, you need to hook up with a guy, John Mark here, and get this for us, and we can try to kill the other middle schools in our math scores this year. And turns out they are not as readily into spending money as I want them to be. And this is not the impulse buy in the Target. They are not on board. But it turns out I am super annoying. So I'm still working on that. So you're like, Stephanie, you just did this whole entire presentation about a program you don't have. Yes. That is exactly right. And the reason I did all of this was not to sell anything. I don't work for them. But the research that they do and the program that they have encouraged or taught me a bunch and encouraged me to sort of think, okay, what do we do now? If I can't buy the program, if I can't implement it within the school here, I can still do the free stuff. I can still match my lessons. those that we're talking about vocabulary. How do you bridge those pieces? There's some free puzzle talks. Basically, elementary number talks is a puzzle talk about each of the puzzles, and it just takes you through how to do it, and a quick way to embed that vocabulary. So I'm doing one of the 8th grade ones. We're moving lines around, and they're like, it goes through 0, 0. So I said, yeah, another word for that is origin. So I'm not giving him 20 vocabulary words to study, but it's in the context, in those number talks, the puzzle talks, you pull that kind of stuff out and makes it real, makes it their words too. So I continued using the free game. I gave John Mark here a call, and I was like, I want to see what else is available. And so he got me a demo access, and so I got to see all the little steps across how it builds, and using the puzzle talks in my whole group as well as in my small group, because all of them don't need everything, but I could do the puzzle talk in a small group, and they are looking at me in the small group and not whatever else is going on around, because they like the puzzles. So I'm like, okay, can I do this in other areas? Because I'm very limited in what I have access to this program-wise. But if brains function similarly, what can I do with that? And I found 2 parts. If our learning activities, whatever they are, whatever curriculum we have, if we have it to where we have concrete examples, and it's concrete in the math, using our manipulatives and the different things, concrete pictures in science, the different things that help make it, help us reach the point where everybody can be, oh yeah, I get what you're saying. It starts concrete, then we move to the representations, because nobody has time for 800 little squares, and we don't have enough of that many hands. So moving from there to the representational is an important step that, like I teach high school, and it's like, but if they don't know how to make a representation, you can't get to abstract things. If they don't know that I can take these groups and do that same multiple times, I can't represent it any other way or make an equation out of it. And you guys know the test, sometimes we'll give them this and ask them what the question is. So they have to be able to do that. And that's a great thing, because we know if they can, then their understanding is a very rich foundation there. So we want to have this process happening. So if you're starting here at abstract and you're like, they're struggling, back up. And if you have some that can do some representations, then rock on. But if there's some that are still like you are speaking a different language, you bust out them Unifix cues. Y'all make towers, because they're gonna want to anyway. Lightsabers, this is a thing, and embrace it. Because the fact is, you can give them the abstract all day long, but unless they have that, you're wasting time. And I know, your students are like, no, we don't have time to lose, right? So then here's the other side so now they're like, that's the kind of the stuff, but then how do we make sure that our lessons have this stuff that incorporates the process the brain is going to go into? We have to have these core mechanisms. That's the stuff of of what you're having them do. So it could be the stuff, your curriculum, it could be your worksheet, your center activity, whatever the thing is. You have that. You can't do it unless you have that thing. And then it has to have a clear problem to solve. How many times have you read a question in a book, and then as the teacher, you're like, what is that asking me? And you're like, shouldn't I know? I'm like, I'm a teacher. Like, what is this what is this question? And they're like, we should all be curriculum makers because nobody knows what they're talking about. But no, but making sure that there is a clear problem to solve. The clearer the problem, the more the kids are going to be able to grasp what it is you're telling them, and we can move further into more abstract things. But we have to start here. And then here is that informative feedback part. And that is the part that I think we lose a lot of the momentum we get when we do brainy things, is that there's so much time between the action and the feedback that I've done forgotten what I did. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. And sometimes, y'all have those students that sometimes that from the beginning of class to the end of class is too long, right? You know, so you're like, we're going to need to maybe move in 5-minute increments to make sure we kind of get this thing going. But even if you're stopping every 5 minutes and doing a feedback and coming back, you're going to be making ground. And I'd rather do that 5 minutes at a time and push a kid a little further than for me to be teaching my whole heart out about abstract things and they don't have a clue. So this is a lesson that I just kind of randomly pulled from Alex. Anybody play around in the Alex, the Alabama Exchange, and got all the lessons? Y'all been teaching a while, really. I love it. Seasoned teacher, you hear my heart, I love it. So this one is actually genetics, sciencey people, the dominant and recessive traits, all that kind of stuff. You'll put it in little squares. This is a lesson straight from Alex. And so I'm like, so I've got to use this, pretend with me, I have to use this. How can I make it go in the order and utilize how the brain is going to learn best? So I made my little cheat sheet here, and I start out with a notice and wonder. What do you have? What do you see? Now this is fabulous for our reluctant students because they'll be like, here's your worksheet. This is your task for today, and I don't know what to do. After you give the directions 15 times, I don't know what to do. So my first question is, okay, what do you notice? What do you see? And then there's that little, the pride of your entire classroom that goes, a paper? And as much as you want to thump them in the center of their forehead, you say, you're right. It is a paper. You got it. We're starting on a success. And I'm like, what else do you see? And I want to go, a number? Yep. You got those too. We got several of those. Now, what else? And you can kind of go on, what's the question? What's it asking? And in this particular one, we're using a shortcut method to produce offspring with the desired genotype. So it tells you this is who you have, your partners, and then that's the genotype you want, and then you're going to solve it. So, notice and wonder, and like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to do one of those little square things we've been doing in class.
President's desk for his signature.
Love it when Alexa Google surprises us. It's always nice. All right. Then they're going to predict. Okay, well, what do I expect is going to happen once I put all these things in my box? Well, I expect I'm going to end up with that. Here's what. Then they actually do that, and they end up with something. So then the next part, okay, I have to get the feedback. I've got to get my, 3B, 4. I need to know if I'm right. Well, if you're the teacher, you can't be as everybody gets it right, but there's a calculator that's right here. So be like, hey, once you've done 2, pass it to your buddy. There's those groups that you don't trust. Y'all have them. Like there's some you'd be like, do it and then check it on the calculator. And then there's those other groups where you're like, you 2 do it, and then you're gonna trade with that group. And I'm watching. Gotta correct them a little bit. But that provides that feedback piece that you may not be able to do in the moment. So they don't get to problem 15 and have done the whole thing wrong. Because that's gonna kill, not only did I waste my time, but now I'm an idiot, and everybody else is done, and I'm gonna have to have homework, which, I mean, I'm feeling bad about myself, so I'm not gonna do that, right? So, when one embedded piece, it can make the difference between a kid who's excited to come to your class and show you what they did, and a kid that's not trying at all. Oh, doing so good. All right. So here we are in English in 5th grade. So Greek and Latin roots, y'all, even as math people, can we appreciate Greek and Latin roots, right? We need to camp there and live there and make a little colony. It's fabulous. Okay, so in this particular lesson from Alex, they told them that they needed to create a chart and to include all of this. This is not given to them at the beginning. So they have, and it's like a worksheet. It's nice, but it was small. I want you to be able to see. So that gives students all of this to do. So then I'm like, okay, well, how can I use what I know about the brain in this activity? Notice and wonder, so student, what are you supposed to do? Well, I gotta choose a word. And, we have them written on the little sentence strips, and every group gets one. And then that words containing sentences, pictures, they're supposed to do that. But say we give them this, and we give them maybe half of one that's sort of kind of almost done. And they're like, hey, when you get to step 2 or 3, come and look at my secret clues up here. And it's half of that. And it's like they can say what they've done. They get the little clue from you. Have I done it similarly? And I'm like, yay. Or the group that's been messing around and nobody's actually listening, and they come and they're like, y'all, we all wrong. We're gonna have to try it again. But we stopped in 15, 20 minutes in, and not at the very end of class, to where now we got those 2 groups that they haven't finished this, we can't go on, and it's creating more issues for ourselves. So, just an extra thing. You had the example anyway, but ways to embed it to where the kids are the ones that is what I thought I was supposed to do and what I tried, does that match up with what is expected and what is successful? And if it doesn't, what can I do to change it now? So I'm not behind and I'm not wasting time and whatever. And of course that takes your professionals as of what do they need to, I need to make sure I don't have these guys that are just gonna copy it all. Or, they're gonna, tell their group the wrong thing because they're just a little bit, have that chaotic energy. That's fine. But I've got, still doing okay? All right. So here we got a 3rd grade. This is a website, just has some free test prep things. And this was one of the questions. So I'm like, how do we go through using what we know about the brain in order to help a student tackle an ELA question? Can we do that? Well, yeah, what do you notice? Well, there's directions. Hey, step 1, let's read those. I mean, middle school people, we don't read directions. We don't know stuff. So that helps us. Okay, what do we notice? What do we do first? Okay, what's our question? What do we notice about our answer choices? Are there similarities and differences in that? Well, I'm going to make a choice. I need to do an action. And then sometimes some of our activities are a little bit different. It's like, how can I give them feedback? This is sort of like a test, but it's really like a practice test. I'm like, hey, maybe say it out loud to somebody. Sometimes when you say it, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Sometimes just that little bit of feedback from somebody else, like, watch their face. When you say it and watch their face, does it go, or does it sound right? So then you have a whole social emotional thing happening, they're looking at facial expression, you guys, it's so much. And then, as teachers, of course, we can kind of connect and extend, we can talk about more things in more details, depending on where their, the gaps are and whatever, and what other pieces that we need to talk about. Here's another one. This is a 7th grade math. This is an ACAP test. And we have proportional relationships here, and it's asking for the constant of proportionality. Now, a student I had, he was the one, I want to go to the next one. He is multiple grade levels, 2 to 3 grade levels behind where he is in 7th grade. Transient, not been in school for any length of time anywhere. He gets to this problem, but he's been doing a lot of the ST Math games and a lot of things with ratios and all. And he says, I'm stuck. Now I'm like, okay, what do you see? What do you notice? What do you think you should do? What's it asking you? All those questions. So I'm taking you through. He goes, well, I've got these points, and then it's got some answer choices. The graph part was not part of his question. And so I said, okay, so what do you think? What are you thinking? Maybe let's just start there. What are you thinking? Is it similar to anything that you've discussed? Do you have any idea where to start? And most of the, sometimes kids will be like, nope, no clue. But after a while of figuring, like, this is a safe space. We can talk, you can discuss. If you are wrong, then great, because I am too, a lot, and we can do this together. Once that is sort of, it's a thing, then they don't mind sharing as much. And he's like, well, I think if we put it on one of those graphs, it's gonna be a line. His numbers were a little bit different. He said, there's a 0, 0, that goes through the origin, which part of me was like, puzzle talk origin. Got it. Those little like secret teacher wins that you do, and when you're like, high five, step. So he's like, I think if I could put it on one of the graphs, I may be able to figure out what it's asking. Cool, right. So he does it, and then of course I wait, I'm like a step behind him, and I do it on mine, so we kind of compare, and I'm like, what do they, what do you think? And he's looking at his, he's looking at mine, he's like, they match. And I was like, okay, cool. So then let's go through the question. He doesn't remember what the constant of the proportionality means, big vocab, and that told me right there, I gotta make sure I'm using that more often. But then he says, he draws his line, and he looks over here at his choices, and he's like, I think it means the spaces in between. And I say, why do you know what, okay, why? He said, well, there's between this dot and this dot, there's only this many spaces, and so I think that's what it's talking about. And he said it's kind of like that example where the concert tickets, where every concert ticket was that much, and then you're like, okay, but you don't show that because you're in middle school and they're big, and you're like, good job, so I say all of that to say, this process of the noticing and wondering and trying and working through that has completely changed how I question. I'm very, I'm in special ed, I don't have time to lose. We have got to go, and so my questioning, I realized, tended to be a bit more, where the answer was, and I'm leading you. So then you're there, and you're, I don't know where she's going with this, so I'm not even gonna try. And I realized I had a lot of people checking out, because they're like, I don't know where she's headed, and obviously it's a specific place. So by changing my questioning to do this, not only did it help engage their brains, but it also opened up avenues where they could express this, where they were. Ms. Brown, all I know about this is there are 4 on this page. And I'm like, you know what, that is a strength we can build on, right? So, every math manipulative that use it more and share it with the older folks, because there are people that need to see it and their brains are going to learn it. If you are one of the fortunate who are able to get SC Math and are able to use that, they also pair the puzzle talks and the puzzles with manipulatives that you can do in small group, and there's maths. And like Birmingham City, I'm super jealous of where we're at right now, and so I want to keep the updates because I'm excited about research in middle school. Just super nerdy. All right, as a part of the presentational stuff, all of the references, all of the things, and mine and John Mark's contact information. And you have 2 minutes early, so I feel like